The neighborhood watch camera didn't catch my wife cheating. It caught the same car outside our house 27 times. At first, I thought it was nothing. A dark blue sedan on a quiet suburban street could mean anything. A delivery driver, a contractor, somebody waiting for a teenager to come outside, someone lost and too proud to admit it. But I'm an engineer. I don't build bridges by calling repeated stress fractures coincidences. I look for patterns. And by the time I finished building mine, I knew my wife hadn't just lied to me. She had brought a man from her past right up to the edge of our home. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 39 years old when this happened. I lived in a 2-story house outside Columbus, Ohio, with my wife, Rachel, and our 8-year-old daughter, Ava. I worked as a structural engineer for a regional construction firm. Nothing glamorous. Mostly schools, parking structures, small municipal buildings, the occasional warehouse expansion. I spent my days reviewing numbers that had to be right because people eventually trusted them with their weight. Rachel taught 3rd grade at a public elementary school 15 minutes from our house. She was 37, smart, funny, good with children, better with people than I ever was. For 11 years, I believed we were steady, not perfect, steady. There's a difference. We had the kind of marriage people probably called boring when they were younger and hoped for when they got older. Saturday grocery runs, Ava's soccer games, takeout on Thursdays. Rachel falling asleep on the couch with a blanket over her legs and some crime show playing too quietly in the background. I packed lunches in the morning because I woke up first. She handled school forms because she remembered dates better. I fixed things around the house. She made the house feel like people actually lived in it. That was our arrangement. That was our life. Or at least, it was the version I understood. The camera system had been my idea. Our neighborhood had a string of mailbox thefts that spring. Nothing violent, just people stealing checks, packages, credit cards, anything they could grab quickly. A few homes had doorbell cameras. The homeowners association encouraged everyone to install something if they could. I installed 2 cameras myself, one above the garage, facing the driveway, one near the front porch, angled toward the street. I also linked them to a neighborhood watch network that stored clips when motion was detected around the curb. Rachel teased me about it. "You know this isn't a military base, right?" she said while I adjusted the porch camera. I remember laughing. "Tell that to the guy who stole Mrs. Klein's prescription delivery." Rachel stood in the doorway wearing one of my old college sweatshirts, holding a mug with both hands. "You like seeing everything," she said. I looked at her. She smiled like it was a joke. At the time, I thought it was. The first alert came on a Wednesday afternoon in late September. I was in Dayton for a site inspection. A school district was replacing part of a deteriorating parking structure, and my team had spent the morning arguing about load paths, budget cuts, and a contractor who wanted to solve a drainage problem with optimism. Around 2:30, I got a notification. Motion detected, street camera. I opened it while waiting for coffee in a gas station. A dark blue sedan was parked across from my house. No one got out. The clip lasted 37 seconds. Then the car drove away. I didn't think much about it. The next day, another alert came in. Same time, same side of the street. Same sedan. This time it stayed for almost 4 minutes. I zoomed in, but the footage was too grainy to read the plate. I could see the outline of a man in the driver's seat. Dark hair, maybe a baseball cap. His face turned away from the camera. Still, I told myself there were reasonable explanations. Maybe he was waiting for someone nearby. Maybe he was a parent picking up a child. Maybe he had the wrong address. Maybe I was tired. The human brain likes a simple answer, especially when the complicated answer might hurt. Then it happened again, and again, not every day. That would have been easier. It happened on days when I wasn't home. A Tuesday when I had an overnight inspection in Cincinnati. A Thursday when I attended a client dinner downtown. A Friday when I took Ava to my parents' house for the weekend because Rachel said she needed a quiet night to catch up on schoolwork. A Monday afternoon during a 2-hour supplier meeting, the sedan would appear. Sometimes for 1 minute, sometimes for 15. Sometimes it parked across the street. Sometimes 2 houses down. Sometimes it stopped at the end of our block, where the camera only caught the rear lights. But it kept coming back. By the 7th alert, I stopped calling it random. By the 12th, I created a spreadsheet. I know how that sounds. Cold, obsessed. Maybe it was both. but I deal with risk for a living. If a crack appears in concrete once, you inspect it. If it appears again in the same location after a temperature change, you document it. If the pattern lines up with water damage and structural movement, you don't call it paranoia, you call it evidence. I made columns: date, time, how long the car stayed, where I was, where Rachel said she was, whether Ava was home, whether our alarm had been armed or disarmed. I didn't tell Rachel, not because I wanted to trap her, because I still wanted to be wrong. The alarm history was what changed everything. We had a standard smart home system: door sensors, motion detectors downstairs, a keypad by the garage, phone access for both of us. Rachel had always hated it. She said the alerts made her feel watched. I said the alerts made me feel like our daughter slept in a safer house. Most days, the system followed the same routine. I left at 7:15. Rachel took Ava to school at 7:40. The system armed at 8:03. Rachel returned around 3:30. The system disarmed. Simple. Except on the days the blue sedan appeared. On those days, the alarm would disarm at strange times: 11:47 a.m., 1:12 p.m., 2:17 p.m. Then it would arm again before Rachel picked Ava up from school. The first time I saw that, I assumed Rachel had come home for something. Maybe she forgot papers. Maybe she came back between errands. But I checked our shared location history, the access she had voluntarily connected years earlier so we could coordinate pickups and travel. Her phone was often listed at the school, or near the school, or at a coffee shop close to the school. Not at home. I stared at that screen for a long time. Then I saw another detail. The alarm had been disarmed using Rachel's personal code. Not mine. Not Ava's emergency code. Rachel's. I sat in my office after everyone else had gone home. The building was quiet except for the air conditioning and the buzz of fluorescent lights over the empty cubicles. I pulled up the log again, then the camera clips, then Rachel's calendar, then my work travel dates. By the end of the night, I had 17 entries. 17 times the sedan appeared near our house. 17 times the alarm system was opened in the middle of a weekday. 17 times Rachel had an explanation for where she was that didn't line up cleanly with the facts. My hands were still when I shut the laptop. That scared me more than if they had been shaking. When I got home that night, Rachel was in the kitchen cutting vegetables for dinner. Ava sat at the table doing math homework, her tongue pressed against the corner of her mouth the way she did whenever she concentrated. Rachel looked up at me. "Hey," she said, "you're late. Traffic. You want me to warm the chicken?" "Sure." She smiled. It was a normal smile. And that was the worst part. I watched her move around the kitchen. Her hair was pulled back. There was a little flower on the sleeve of her cardigan. She had one of Ava's school fundraiser bracelets around her wrist. Nothing about her looked like someone who had been lying to me. Nothing about her looked like someone who might have opened our home to another man while I was out making sure other people's buildings didn't fall apart. Then Ava held up her worksheet. "Dad, can you check number 6? I sat beside her. She had written the right answer. I told her so. She smiled at me, and I decided I wouldn't let my fear spill across her childhood before I knew what was true. "You're right," I said. "Just show your work a little more clearly." That was the first lie I told after I started finding hers. For the next week, I watched. Not her phone, not her private messages, not her bedroom. I watched the things that touched my life directly: the house alarm, the shared bank account, the neighborhood camera clips, the garage camera, the grocery deliveries, the calendar invitations that appeared on our shared family schedule. I kept everything factual: date, time, observed behavior, no guesses, no accusations, no dramatic language. A written timeline with neutral, specific details is a safer and more credible way to preserve what someone actually observed than hacking, secretly tracking, editing material, or inventing evidence. I didn't know it then, but writing it down was also the only thing keeping me sane. Because when you suspect betrayal, your mind wants to run ahead of the facts. It wants to turn every late meeting into a hotel room, every unfamiliar scent into proof, every glance into a confession. The timeline gave me something harder than imagination. It gave me dates. The 19th appearance came on a Saturday. That was the day I began to understand who the man was. Rachel had told me she was taking Ava to a birthday party at one of her coworkers' houses. I had a bridge inspection in Lancaster that morning, then planned to meet them for dinner afterward. At 12:06 p.m., I got a camera alert. The blue sedan was parked at the curb. Not across the street this time. Directly in front of our house. I opened the live view. The driver stepped out. The image was clearer in daylight. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, lean, dark hair with gray at the temples. He wore a charcoal jacket and jeans. Nothing unusual. Then he turned toward the house. And I recognized him. His name was Nathan Cole, Rachel's former fiancé, the man she had told me about exactly twice in 11 years. The first time was early in our relationship, when we were still learning the safe version of each other's pasts. She told me they had been together in their 20s, engaged for 6 months, broken up badly. He cheated, she said, and then he tried to come back when he realized what he lost. She had looked at me and said, "I blocked him everywhere years ago." The second time was at our wedding rehearsal dinner. Someone from Rachel's college had mentioned Nathan's name without thinking. Rachel's face changed. Not much, just enough that I noticed. Later that night, she said, "I hate that people still connect me to him." I told her I understood. I believed her. Nathan stood outside my house for less than a minute. He didn't ring the doorbell. He didn't walk to the front porch. Instead, he looked toward the garage, checked his phone, and returned to the sedan. Then the garage door opened. My garage door. Nathan drove inside. The camera caught the door closing behind him. I don't remember the drive home. I remember calling my supervisor and saying I had a family emergency. I remember him asking if I needed help. I remember saying no. I remember my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my wedding band pressed into my skin. But I don't remember most of the highway. By the time I reached our street, Nathan's car was gone. The garage was closed. Rachel's car was parked in the driveway. Ava's bike leaned against the porch. Everything looked normal. Again. I sat in my truck at the end of the block and forced myself to breathe. Then I opened the neighborhood camera archive. Nathan's sedan had entered my garage at 12:08. At 1:41, the garage door had opened again. At 1:42, he drove away. 93 minutes. That was it. 93 minutes reduced 11 years of trust to something I could measure in a spreadsheet. I didn't walk in screaming. I didn't call Rachel from the driveway. I didn't confront Nathan. I went inside through the front door. Rachel was sitting on the couch with Ava, watching an animated movie. She looked up. "Oh, you're back early. Inspection ended sooner than expected." "That's nice." She sounded almost relieved. Then she got up and hugged me. I stood there with my arms at my sides for 1 second too long. She noticed. Her face changed. "Daniel?" I hugged her back because Ava was watching. I hated myself for how automatic it was. I hated that my body still knew the shape of my wife, even after my mind had begun to understand she was not who I thought she was. "Long day," I said. Rachel nodded slowly. "Yeah," she said, "mine too." That night, I slept in the guest room. I told Rachel I had an early site visit and didn't want to wake her. She didn't argue. That hurt in a strange way. Part of me wanted her to push, to ask why, to insist I come back to bed. Instead, she kissed my cheek, said goodnight, and walked upstairs. At 12:18 a.m., I heard the soft chime of a notification from her phone in our bedroom. Then I heard the floorboards creak. Then silence. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan. I kept thinking about Nathan's car inside my garage, about the fact that my daughter's bicycle had been 6 feet away, about Rachel opening the house while I was away, about 93 minutes, and one thought kept returning. Not, did she cheat? That question was already dead. The question was, how long had she been doing this? The answer came through food delivery. 2 days later, I reviewed our shared account because I wanted to see whether Rachel had used our card during one of the suspicious alarm events. She hadn't, but there were charges from a local Italian restaurant. Not big charges. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, dessert. Always delivered to our home. Always on weekday afternoons. Always on dates when Ava was at school and I was out. The orders had been placed through Rachel's personal account, but the payment card was an old joint card she had forgotten remained connected. I could see the order notes. Leave at side entrance. Do not ring bell. There were 9 of them. 9 private lunches in the house I paid for. 9 times she had arranged a meal for herself and the man she once said had betrayed her. 9 times she had asked strangers not to ring the bell. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I opened the old order history and read the details. Not because I needed proof, because I wanted to understand the shape of the lie. Each order was nearly identical. Same pasta dish for Rachel. Same steak sandwich for Nathan. Same sparkling water. Same tiramisu. A ritual. A private little routine. That was what broke something in me. Not the money, not even the food. It was the tenderness of repetition. A one-time mistake is still betrayal, but routine is a relationship. Routine means they had preferences, they had jokes, they had a version of ordinary life, and they had built it in the middle of mine. The next clue was a scarf. Rachel wore a soft cream scarf to school one Thursday morning. I remembered it because Ava had spilled juice on it the previous winter, and Rachel had spent 20 minutes trying to save it. That evening, the scarf was hanging over the back of a dining chair. I picked it up to move it. There was a faint smell on it. Not perfume exactly, cedar, soap, something sharper. It wasn't mine, I set it down. I didn't mention it, but I added one line to my timeline. October 12th, unfamiliar fragrance on scarf after midday alarm disarm event. Facts only. That was my rule. Facts only. 3 days later, Rachel told me Nathan had contacted her. We were in the kitchen after Ava went to bed. Rachel was making tea. I was pretending to read an email. She kept tapping the spoon against the mug. A small, nervous sound. Finally, she said, "I need to tell you something before you hear it from someone else." I looked up. What? Nathan reached out. My face stayed still. When? A few weeks ago. How? He found me on social media. I thought you blocked him. I did. He made a new account. I let the silence sit there. Rachel wrapped both hands around the mug. He said he was sorry for how things ended. He wanted closure. And did you give him closure? He came by once. Once. It was almost impressive how quickly a person can try to make a lie small. One message. One meeting. One mistake. One drink. One kiss. One thing. As if reducing the number made the betrayal less real. Where did he come by? I asked. She looked at me. Our house. When? Last Saturday. The same day. The same 93 minutes. I nodded slowly. And why didn't you tell me? Rachel's eyes filled. I didn't want you to overreact. There it was. The first attempt to make my response the problem. Did you sleep with him? I asked. Rachel looked down, then up, then down again. No. I had expected denial. Still, hearing it made my stomach turn. Did he come inside our house? Yes. Did you eat lunch with him? Her breathing changed. What? The Italian food, the side door delivery instructions, the alarm system, the camera clips. Rachel went completely still. I could see the moment she realized I knew more than she thought. Daniel, she whispered. No, not yet. I stood up. Did you sleep with Nathan in our house? Rachel started crying, quietly at first, the kind of crying that comes with calculated words. I don't know how this happened. That isn't an answer. I was lonely. That isn't an answer. You've been traveling so much. That still isn't an answer. She covered her face. Then she said it. Yes. I thought I would yell. I didn't. I thought I would throw something. I didn't. I thought my heart would race. Instead, everything slowed down. The refrigerator hummed. The kitchen clock ticked. A car passed outside. Rachel cried into her hands. And I heard myself ask questions in the same voice I used at work when a contractor gave me bad numbers. How many times? She didn't answer. Rachel, how many times? Since June. June. It was October. 4 months. How many times? I don't know. Try. She looked at me. Her mascara had started to run, but her eyes were clear now. Too clear. Maybe 8. I almost laughed. Because the camera had caught Nathan's car 27 times. And that was only the street camera. Only the days it registered motion. Only the times he came near my house. Try again, I said. Rachel's mouth trembled. More than that. How many? I don't know. Did you meet him outside the house? She nodded. Hotels? Another nod. During work? She nodded again. While Ava was in school? She closed her eyes. Yes. I walked away from the kitchen. Not because I was done. Because I knew, if I stayed, I would say something I could never take back. I went into the garage. The garage where Nathan had parked. The garage where I kept tools, Ava's soccer gear, boxes of holiday decorations. The latter Rachel always asked me to bring down for her. I stood in the middle of it and stared at the floor. There was nothing there, no stain, no note, no physical mark, just concrete. But I could see the shape of his car in my mind. I could see Rachel opening the garage door. I could see her checking the street before letting him in. I could see her thinking she was safe. And for the first time, I understood something ugly. She hadn't hidden the affair somewhere far away from me. She had hidden it inside the systems of our life, our alarm, our home, our schedule, our daughter's school day. The next morning, I called an attorney. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed to know what I should not do. I told her I had discovered a long-term affair and had access to security logs, bank records, and footage from cameras on my own home. She told me to preserve original records, avoid accessing private accounts that were not mine, not confront the other man alone, not use Ava as leverage, and not make decisions about separation or parenting arrangements in anger. It was the first useful thing anyone had said to me since the truth came out. Don't make permanent decisions from a temporary emotional fire. Preserve what you lawfully have, protect the child, get advice before acting. That became my second rule. Rachel stayed with her sister for 3 nights. I didn't throw her out. I didn't change the locks. I told her I needed space and that Ava needed stability. Rachel cried when she packed. She asked if she could explain. I told her she had 4 months to explain. She asked if she could call Ava. I said yes. Of course she could. Ava had done nothing wrong. That was harder than I expected. Watching my wife speak softly to our daughter from the guest room, saying, "Mommy loves you," while I knew exactly how many afternoons she had spent giving that same time to someone else. But I would not turn my daughter into a witness for adult pain. That line mattered. It had to. On the 4th day, I met Nathan's wife. Her name was Claire. I didn't contact her first. She contacted me. Apparently Nathan had told Rachel he was separated. He wasn't. Claire found out about the affair because Nathan came home late one night, drunk enough to forget his phone in the car. She saw messages from Rachel, not explicit photographs, not anything graphic, but intimate enough to reveal a relationship built on secrecy. Messages about missing him, about hiding lunch containers, about how quiet our house was in the afternoon, about the way Rachel felt when he called her by an old nickname from college. Claire asked to meet at a coffee shop. I almost said no. Then she said something I understood. "I don't need you to hate her with me," she said. "I need to know what was real." So I went. Claire was 41, composed, tired, and wearing a navy coat even though the day was warmer than it looked. She had brought a folder. Not a weapon, not a dramatic stack of screenshots. A folder. Inside were copies of hotel receipts, dates, travel confirmations, and photographs of Nathan and Rachel taken at a charity event in July. In one photo, they stood near a ballroom entrance. Nothing openly sexual, nothing that would matter to anyone else. But his hand rested at the small of Rachel's back, and Rachel leaned toward him like she belonged there. I had seen that posture before, not with Nathan, with me, at our wedding, at Ava's school recital, at my father's retirement dinner. It was a small thing, a familiar thing. That made it unbearable. Claire told me Nathan had never stopped talking about Rachel. Not constantly, not openly, but enough that she noticed. He had kept an old college photo of Rachel in a box in the basement. He had called her the one who got away during a fight years ago. Claire thought it was just nostalgia. Then Nathan found Rachel again online. Then he began making sales trips to Columbus, even though his job rarely required them. Then he changed. New clothes, a different haircut, more time at the gym, long showers after work. The stupid, ordinary signs people only recognize once the truth has already arrived. He told me she was unhappy, Claire said. I looked at her. Did he say why? Claire gave a humorless smile. He said you didn't see her anymore. That sentence stayed with me. Not because I believed it, because I knew how carefully Rachel had chosen it. It was the kind of sentence that made an affair feel like a rescue. The kind of sentence that turned a husband into a villain without ever naming one cruel thing he had done. I asked Claire one question. Did he say he was leaving you? She looked at the table. Yes. Did he mean it? No. I nodded. Rachel had believed Nathan was coming back for her. Nathan had told Claire Rachel was temporary. And somewhere in the middle, both of them had built a story where I was the obstacle instead of the person they were hurting. 2 weeks later, Rachel came back to talk. Not move back. Talk. Ava was at my parents' house for a sleepover. The house was quiet. I sat at the dining room table with my timeline. the alarm logs, and a legal pad. Rachel sat across from me. She looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe she had always been that size. Maybe grief changes the scale of a room. I need the truth, I told her. Not the version that makes you sound less responsible. Not the version that makes Nathan sound powerful. The truth. Rachel nodded. It started with a message. When? Last winter. That's not what you told me. I know. What did he say? He said he'd been thinking about me. And you answered? Yes. Why? Rachel looked toward the window. Because I wanted to know if I still mattered. I sat with that. Then I said, you mattered to me. I know. That didn't stop you. No. She told me the story in pieces. Nathan had found her through an old alumni page. He said he regretted cheating on her when they were younger. He said he had compared every relationship after her to what they had. He remembered details, her favorite college coffee shop, the song they danced to at a friend's wedding, a scar on her knee from a hiking trip. Rachel said it felt like being seen by someone who remembered a version of her before motherhood, mortgage payments, school meetings, and laundry. I understood the words. I did not accept the choice. There is a difference. Everybody changes. Everybody gets tired. Everybody can feel invisible sometimes. But loneliness does not make a secret life inevitable. It makes honesty more necessary. When did it become physical? I asked. Rachel started crying again. April. Where? At a hotel near the airport. Whose idea? Mine too. That was the first honest answer she gave me. Not, he pressured me. Not, I didn't know what I was doing. Not, it just happened. Mine too. She admitted that after the first time, she tried to stop. Then Nathan sent her flowers at school. Not with his name, just an old phrase from college, she answered. Then they met again. After that, they created rules. No phone calls after 10 p.m. No messages on weekends unless one of them was traveling. No photographs with faces. No obvious gifts. No social media interactions. Rachel said those rules made her feel safer. All I heard was that they had planned it. They had built procedures around deceiving me. The affair had its own little architecture. Lunches at our house when I was gone. Hotels near the airport when Nathan claimed he was traveling. A booth at a restaurant 40 minutes away where no one knew them. A coffee shop inside a bookstore where they could sit close together without looking suspicious. Rachel kept a spare change of clothes in a tote bag in the trunk of her car. Nathan kept a phone charger for her in his glove compartment. She knew the kind of gum he bought. He knew she hated red wine, but drank it when she was nervous. They had a song, not a famous love song. Something quiet they heard once in a hotel lobby and turned into theirs. I didn't ask for every detail. I didn't need every detail. There is a point where information stops being truth and becomes self-harm. But the things Rachel volunteered were enough. Enough to understand they didn't stumble into an affair. They furnished it. They gave it a schedule. They gave it habits. They gave it a place at my table. I asked her why the house. Rachel covered her face. I don't know. Yes, you do. I thought it would be easier. Easier than what? Hotels, questions, money. So you brought him here. She nodded. And Ava, she was at school. That doesn't answer me. Rachel began to shake. I never wanted her to know. You used her school day as your window. That was when she stopped defending herself. Not because I yelled, because there was nothing left to say. Nathan tried to contact me once. He sent a message through a mutual acquaintance. He wanted to clear the air. I told the acquaintance there was no air to clear. He could speak to his own wife. My attorney told me not to engage directly, so I didn't. I didn't need a confrontation in a parking lot. I didn't need to prove I was tougher than him. I needed to stop letting the choices of two dishonest people decide who I became. Rachel and I began the separation process. It wasn't clean, it wasn't fast. It wasn't one courtroom speech where everyone got exactly what they deserved. Real life does not work like that. We worked through attorneys. We built a parenting plan around Ava's routine. We discussed the house. We discussed money. We discussed what would be said to our daughter. We agreed on one sentence. Mom and Dad are going to live in different homes, but we both love you and none of this is because of you. I said that sentence so many times I could have recited it in my sleep. But every time Ava asked if she had done something wrong, it still felt like someone had put a hand inside my chest and twisted. No, sweetheart, I told her. You didn't do anything wrong. And that was true. The only innocent person in our marriage was the one who had never been asked to make a choice. Months passed, not in a montage, not in some dramatic rush where pain becomes wisdom by Christmas. Months passed slowly. I went to work, I picked Ava up from school. I learned to cook 3 meals that didn't come out of a box. I attended a support group twice, then stopped going for a while, then started again. I slept badly, then less badly, then sometimes well. Betrayal can leave people cycling through shock, obsessive thinking, anger, grief, and gradual recovery. Support, routine, rest, and grounding activities can matter while someone rebuilds a sense of safety. I began running in the mornings, not because I liked it, I hated it, but there was something honest about putting one foot in front of the other before the sun came up. No lies, no explanations, no hidden calendar, just distance. Rachel moved into an apartment 10 minutes away. Nathan did not leave Claire for her. He had promised Rachel he would figure things out. Then he stopped answering as often. Then he said Claire needed him because she was taking it badly. Then he said he couldn't destroy his children's lives. Rachel told me this during one of our co-parenting conversations. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. He made promises he had no intention of keeping, I said. Rachel looked at me. You don't have to be cruel. I'm not trying to be cruel. What are you trying to be? Done. The 27th camera appearance happened after we separated. That was the final one. It was February. Snow had turned the edges of the street gray. Ava was with Rachel that weekend. I was home alone, fixing a loose cabinet hinge in the kitchen. My phone buzzed. Motion detected, street camera. I opened the clip. Nathan's sedan was parked across from my house. Same dark blue car, same quiet street, same man in the driver's seat. But this time, he did not get out. He sat there for almost 6 minutes, then drove away. I watched the clip twice. Then I called Rachel. She answered on the 3rd ring. Daniel, Nathan is outside my house. There was a silence. Then she whispered, What? He's parked across the street. I don't know why. Is he trying to contact you? No. Is he with you? No. Rachel, I'm not asking to fight. I'm asking because I need to know whether he is a risk to my daughter. Her voice cracked. He came by yesterday. I closed my eyes. What did he want? He said he missed me. And I told him not to contact me again. Did you? Yes. Then why is he at my house? I don't know. Maybe that was the truth. Maybe Nathan had finally understood what he had broken and wanted a way back into a life he had already poisoned. Maybe he wanted Rachel. Maybe he wanted control. Maybe he wanted to see whether I was still the quiet, trusting husband he had imagined. I didn't care. I saved the clip. I notified my attorney, and I told Rachel that if he contacted Ava, came onto my property, or appeared near either home again, I would take appropriate legal steps. No threats. No hero speeches, just boundaries. Nathan never came back. The car never appeared again. And slowly, the street outside my house became just a street. A year after the first camera alert, Ava had a school project about people who help build communities. She chose me. Not because I asked. Because she had seen pictures of bridges in my office and thought that was what I did every day. One Saturday afternoon, she sat at the kitchen table drawing a bridge with bright red markers. You make things stay up, right? She asked. I looked at her. Something like that. She nodded seriously. Then you should make a bridge that goes to Mom's apartment. I smiled. Why? So I don't have to sit in traffic. Kids are practical. They don't always understand what broke, but they know where the distance is. I reached across the table and moved one of her crayons before it rolled off. Maybe we can't build that kind of bridge, I said. Ava looked disappointed. Then I added, but we can make sure you get where you need to go. She thought about it. Then she nodded. Okay. That night, after Ava fell asleep, I walked outside. The air was cold, the neighborhood was quiet. Porch lights glowed along the street. I looked at the camera above my garage. For months, it had felt like an accusation, a witness, a machine that had seen the beginning of the end before I had. But standing there, I saw it differently. The camera had not destroyed my marriage. The camera had not created the lies. It had only recorded the pattern. And patterns matter. Not because they give you permission to hate. Not because they make grief easier. Not because they guarantee justice. Patterns matter because they tell you when something you keep calling an accident is actually a choice. Rachel made hers, Nathan made his, and eventually, painfully, I made mine. I chose not to beg for the version of my marriage that no longer existed. I chose not to turn Ava into a reason for revenge. I chose not to become a man who needed another person's ruin to feel whole. I chose to build a life that could stand without the lie holding it up. A year later, the Neighborhood Watch app sent me one final notification. Not a car, not an alarm, just a community update from the Homeowners Association. They were discontinuing the shared street camera program because crime reports had dropped. I read the message in my kitchen while Ava ate cereal before school. Then I opened the app, scrolled to the archive, and deleted the folder labeled Blue Sedan. Not because it never happened, not because I had forgiven everyone, but because I did not need to keep visiting the evidence after it had already taught me the truth. Ava looked up from her bowl. "Dad, are you okay?" I put my phone down. Then I looked at my daughter. "Yeah," I said. And this time, it wasn't a lie. If this story made you think, tell me in the comments. When does a pattern become proof? And if you enjoy long, emotionally grounded stories about betrayal, boundaries, and rebuilding, subscribe for the next one. Thanks for listening.
Clock strikes, silence wraps the room. A gentle breath, memories bloom. In corners where laughter used to spill, you linger here, you always will. Yeah.
Curtains drawn, the sunlight spills on me, tracing lines you left in quiet honesty. Words unspoken, pressed in dust and air, soft echoes marking everywhere. Yeah.
Heartbeat steady in the hush you made.
Caught between retreat and the parade, I find myself replaying every scene, every little whisper in between.
You are the thunder in a sunlit haze, the taste of coffee at the break of day. Still I wear your favorite jacket, walk familiar alleys, looking for laughter we used to chase.
I couldn't bow the lyric.
She steps in, painted in autumn tones, speaking truth in melodies grown. Her words a shelter from the gentle rain, wishing I could go back there again.
We made mistakes, tied up in time, but every fall felt worth the climb. When comfort wore your cologne and smile, a moment's warmth that stays a while.
You are the thunder in a sunlit haze, the taste of coffee at the break of day. Still I wear your favorite jacket, walk familiar alleys, looking for laughter